Hi everyone. In the previous part 1 video, we have learned the loading of the carbon dioxide and unloading of oxygen in the peripheral tissue. When leaving the peripheral tissue, the red blood cells are loaded with the hemoglobinic acid, HHB, and also the carbaminohemoglobin in the red blood cell, and the bicarbonate ion and carbon dioxide in the plasma. So now in this part 2 video, we will learn how the loading of the oxygen and unloading of the carbon dioxide from this red blood cell occurs when the red blood cell reach the lungs. When deoxygenated blood reach the lung, it is full with the carbaminohemoglobin, HbCO2, the hemoglobinic acid, HHB, in the red blood cell, and also the bicarbonate ion and carbon dioxide in the plasma. The transport of gas here involves the loading of the oxygen gas into the blood and also the unloading of the carbon dioxide out of the blood into the alveolar space. Similarly, both of these transport process occurs at the same time, and both of them involve the hemoglobin. For the transport of the carbon dioxide, it involves the three same pathway that occurs in the peripheral tissue. But in the lung here, the pathway are reversed. The lung environment has high partial pressure of the oxygen, low partial pressure for the carbon dioxide, and slightly higher pH. And all of these will increase the affinity of the hemoglobin towards the oxygen, and thus favoring the binding of the oxygen to the hemoglobin to form the oxyhemoglobin. As the oxygen binds to the hemoglobin, it can displace the hydrogen and also the carbon dioxide from which is bound, that is bound to the hemoglobin, and leading to the dissociation of this HHB, hemoglobinic acid, and also the carbaminohemoglobin. So for the first pathway in the carbon dioxide transport, the hydrogen ion and the bicarbonate ion is going to be reversed and form the carbonic acid. And then this carbonic acid will reverse and dissociate to become the carbon dioxide and the water. So let's discuss in detail for this first pathway. So due to the slightly higher pH, so the hemoglobinic acid, HHB, is going to dissociate and thus release the hydrogen ion and at the same time release the hemoglobin, which will be used to carry the oxygen later. At the same time, the bicarbonate ion will be transferred back into the red blood cell. But in order to maintain the charge, to maintain this electrical charge in the red blood cell, so the chloride sieve process will occur again. It's just that this time, the bicarbonate ion will be transported into the red blood cell, while the chloride ion will be transported out of the red blood cell. So after that, when there is bicarbonate ion and the hydrogen ion, so these two ions will combine and form the carbonic acid molecule. So again, this process is catalyzed by the same enzyme, which is the carbonic anhydrase. So same thing, when the carbonic acid is formed, then almost immediately it will dissociate to become the carbon dioxide and the water. So later on, this carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the blood into the alveolar air space down the concentration gradient. So that is all for the first pathway. Then for the second pathway, the carbaminohemoglobin. Carbaminohemoglobin, due to the high partial pressure of the oxygen and low partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. So the affinity of the hemoglobin towards the oxygen will be increasing. It will be high, and these will lead to the dissociation of this carbaminohemoglobin and form and release the carbon dioxide. So this carbaminohemoglobin will dissociate and release the hemoglobin and carbon dioxide. Then this carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the red blood cell into the alveolar airspace as well. And in the last pathway, for those carbon dioxide molecule that stay in the plasma, this carbon dioxide molecule will also diffuse into the alveolar airspace down the concentration gradient. On the other hand, for the transport of the oxygen will be loaded into the blood in two pathways. So the first pathway will be the major and most important pathway, where the oxygen will bind to the hemoglobin to form the oxyhemoglobin. When the blood reaches the lung, the high concentration of the oxygen gas is going to cause them to diffuse down the concentration gradient into the blood. So most of this oxygen will be transported into the red blood cell, and from here they will bind to the hemoglobin and form the oxyhemoglobin. So all of this process can occur because in the lung, the high partial pressure of the oxygen is causing the hemoglobin to have high affinity for this oxygen. So that is why most of this oxygen will bind to the hemoglobin. Well, in the second pathway, there will be also some oxygen that after they diffuse into the blood, they will stay inside the plasma as the oxygen molecule. Yeah. So in the end, when this blood is loaded with the oxygen and unloading all the carbon dioxide, now the blood will leave the lung. When the blood leave the lung, they will become the oxygenated blood. And during this time, they will be loaded with the oxyhemoglobin, which is in the red blood cell, and also some oxygen molecule, which dissolve in the plasma.